an introduction, so please, can I ask everybody to take your seats? We are going to be reporting back to you the very interesting discussions that we have with majors. I have to say that this has been a titanic effort because we are asking majors to tell us how they are going to upskill the labor force, how they are going to integrate migrants, how they are going to contribute to the climate change, how they are going to contribute to jobs and job quality in 2 minutes. So it has been really quite an effort from their side. So what we're going to do, and I think we're still waiting for Lamia Kamal, who is in the climate panel, but we are going to start because we're really lagging behind. I am Gabriela Ramos. I'm the Chief of Staff at OECD Sherpa, but I'm also honored to be the one that is coordinating the work on inclusive growth. The conversation has just started, and I really think that it just shows that we need to continue this debate, learning from the majors, but also encouraging the majors to learn from each other on the issues that they can tackle and that they can contribute to improve. And welcome to the Deputy Mayor of Seoul, who's going to be your host next year. So without further ado, let me just tell you who is going to be here to report back. First, we have Billy Cobbett, and he's our partner in the Global Cities Alliance. Please, you have also 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm reporting back from the thematic working group #1, which looked at the built environment and housing. And we had 5 mayors from Kyoto, Cape Town, Merida, Brussels, and Porto. And each mayor had 2 minutes to try and indicate their interventions. So we were asked as the reporters back to provide 2 takeaways from each of the meetings. So let me summarize my 2 takeaways. The first, across all of these mayors, each one of these mayors is having to redefine and rethink their city and is currently undertaking that process. A combination of previous policies at the national level, at the local level, the impact of special interests in each of the cities, particularly wealthier interests, have all contributed to significant social exclusion, growing inequality, and segregation, economic, spatial, and social. And this was common across all 5 cities. And so each of these mayors is having to try and identify ways in which they can overcome the impacts of previous policies and, one assumes, not leave a legacy for their successor to also have to overcome in the future. And the second takeaway, and it directly relates to it, is that all mayors have demonstrated and/or I think are demonstrating that well-judged interventions can make a significant impact on their respective cities, but with 3 qualifiers, and these are the difficult things that the mayors have to manage. The first is to rest their interventions on widespread citizen participation, which is often what didn't happen in the previous environment. And as part of that citizen participation, secondly, is balancing different interests within the city. Not all citizens have the same vision for the city in which they live, and it is the mayor and his or her administration to balance those. And the third, and maybe this is often the most significant, is to rethink the city citywide, to think about not only the special interests spatially, but think about the city now and where it's going to be 10 or 20 years from now. And this requires a very different kind of thinking. And so what we heard from each of the mayors was that targeted, carefully constructed, targeted public interventions, and they were a range of financial interventions, social, regulatory, in different parts of the city, in different sectors, land, infrastructure, and housing, can have a very significant impact on improving social, economic, and spatial integration within that cities. I'm generalizing, but every single mayor spoke about their role and their administration's role in directly intervening in one part of the city, whether spatially, sectorally, or both. I can give you examples, but I thought we'd take the general takeaway. Thank you, Chair. That's 3 minutes.
Fantastic, Billy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just ask Mario Pezzini, and because I was also chairing the session on education and skills, it's interesting to see how much the same lines in terms of citizen engagement, very targeted interventions are just emerging as major messages from this discussion. Mario?
Thank you, Gabriela. We heard several interventions that, for certain aspects, tend to converge with the traditional discourse. A discourse that tends to emphasize that the market is like a jet plane, is moving too fast, just to quote a recent Nobel Prize. This market that is moving so fast has requirements in terms of skills, and cities are not capable to provide those skills to firms that are extremely innovative. In other terms, they are somehow lazy. And here the traditional answers are, well, you know, because workers are rigid, because there is a mismatch between the skills they acquire in the university, studying literature and not engineering, and also because the schools need to innovate and to change. And obviously here we find all a series of action that the mayor can undertake, in particular in the field of training and in general in the connection between the school and the labor market. But I would like also to refer to something we have heard this morning from the mayor of Dakar, Sarr, and introduce also a logic that we can see in developing countries and not only there, as inequalities are rising everywhere. Here, the problem appears with different characteristics. Often you have people leaving rural areas, going to cities that are growing without changing their nature, and therefore are not necessarily offering new jobs or new opportunities, but just hosting rural poor. In this respect, the problem is not that the skills are not appropriate, but simply that many people are useless because there are no new jobs. Or other example are these new middle classes that have had more opportunity, the children went to school, they come out with the old expectation of the family to find a job, and then, like in Tunisia, before the Arab Spring, they find a job only in the informal economy. And then the society explodes. In all these cases, it's not a matter of the workers that are not necessarily trained, it's also what the entrepreneurs can supply, what the city can offer as job. And here, there are a new series of activities that the mayor are asked to intervene on. Among others, because innovation, new products, competitiveness doesn't come from the sky, and the city has only to attract it. It's produced in the city. And here comes all a series of action. For example, how to promote the innovations in the small firms, how to help traditional industry that are not generating new jobs and asking for new skill to innovate and change. Just a number. In Latin America, the investments in research and development in average is 0.6%. In the OECD, it's 2.4. How much is done by the entrepreneur? 0.2. It's obvious that the mayors has also to deal with entrepreneurs that can be as lazy as sometimes the workers or certain workers. So to conclude, you have things to do when it comes to school, speak with professors, teachers in schools. You have things to do also with firms. And the crucial point is that you need a different governance. Tables in order to coordinate all these actors. And who best than the mayors? Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. You saw that passion. Yes, he's now the development center. He has been fighting to have a regional perspective of the OECD for so many years, so we hear you, Mario. Let me just give the floor to Jean-Christophe Dumont to report back on the integrating refugees in labor markets and communities.
Thank you, Gabriela. We had a fascinating discussion with 8 mayors and deputy mayors with an extensive experience on this issue of the integration of refugees and migrants, and which has shown that a positive and a cohesive approach to the issue can achieve a great deal. No doubt the challenge of integrating migrants, and more specifically of integrating the unprecedented number of people who have been seeking protection in the OECD this year is daunting. But we can and we should address it. We cannot afford to fail on integration. Integration is a prerequisite not only for a positive economic impact in the long run, but also for social cohesion. Addressing this critical issue requires significant upfront investment, and this is not cheap, and it will pay off maybe only in the long run. But we need to do that investment. Cities are in the forefront. Cities welcome and accommodate newcomers. Cities provide the services, education, housing, and in some cases even health. Cities ensure the link between the stakeholders, the business community, the civil society. Cities communicate with the citizens. For all these reasons, champions of inclusive growth will also be most likely champions in integrating migrants and refugees. And from our discussion, we have had a wealth of innovation and I think good practices that need to be shared, leveraged, and in some cases could be transferred. I'm sorry I'm going to get a bad grade here because I don't have 2 takeaway messages, but I have 3+1. But I think this is important. Let me go very quickly through them. First one is about communication and engaging with the local communities. Maire of Athens and Leipzig explained that it's very important to explain the situation, to be on the ground, to talk to the public. Maire from Grand Saint, Tel Aviv, emphasized the need to avoid portraying migrants as a problem, but as part of a solution. The need to build welcoming city and a shared vision for cities. Number 2, the fact that we cannot always scale up the existing programs. We need to find innovative way to approach the issue, in particular in a case of large inflow such as the one we just experienced. Housing, we've seen the experience of Grand Saint of Paris with a humanitarian welcoming center. Athens and also other cities adopting Stockholm, obviously, on the housing question. The question of language training, combining language training and professional experience from the mayor of Stockholm with the objective to get people into job within 6 months. But a number of other very innovative approaches, including from Montreal with app to welcome people in the city. The third element is about coordination. Coordination is very important. We need to avoid parallel schemes from the mayor of Leipzig. We need to improve coordination between employers, education, local communities. That's the experience of Montreal. And I would like just my takeaway message, which is that migration is not a problem to solve, but most likely an opportunity. If well managed, if integration is successful, it can contribute to fueling the engine for inclusive growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Christophe. And let me just say that, that Jean-Christophe, for those that don't know, he's the editor of the International Migration Outlook of the OECD, which has been published for the last 40 years only. Of course, he was not in charge of the 40, but it was great because in the United Nations, the main message was the OECD is against the tide to say migrants are good investment. Can I then give the floor to Lamia, who is the full force of this whole event?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gabriela. I'm going to report on the 4th session, which had to address the issue of the nexus between climate change objective and inclusive growth objective. So the first thing is that there seems to be a very strong demand from mayors to better know how to align these two agendas. And this was mentioned this morning by Mayor Hidalgo as maybe one of the first sentences of her keynote speech. The mayor recognized that both climate change and inequalities have transformative, wide-ranging implication, and they are very much concerned to find solutions. On the other hand, it became very obvious that many cities are on the front line, and they are the laboratories of innovative solutions that can be scaled up within their countries, but also shared internationally. We heard many examples of very good potential synergy between policy objectives. For instance, the use of sustainable public procurement practices, the example of smart, affordable housing policy, which are coupled with eco-efficient building policies, and of course, how to make public transit investment well planned in a way that it can open up new labor market opportunities for lower income groups that were previously isolated in poor transit areas. Many mayors mention very wise local green strategies that can provide disadvantaged social group with access to new skills, new jobs. And some of them, they mentioned, for instance, some example of how they were supporting SMEs, the development of startup with some innovative financing mechanism. Some mayors, they stress the importance to take into account the question of the preservation of the nature, the preservation of the environment as part of the equation. And they mentioned the role of education as being key, the importance to make citizens part of the solution, the importance to involve NGOs. Finance was mentioned as the key challenge, mainly by all mayors, and we know that it's a long-standing issue. And of course, they were asking, you know, how we could have an enabling environment, international policy environment, and some intervention were made in favor of putting a price on carbon, which is very important. Another challenge that was mentioned by some mayors was how to align policies across levels of governments, of course. And some mayors mentioned the need to get more support from their central government. One participant mentioned something very interesting is how would you monitor progress? What type of indicators you would like to develop? On the side of climate change, we can see that actually the agenda has been shared globally for a while, and we are very much advanced. The work that international institutions like the C40, ICLEI, and the framework that they have developed with the Covenant of Mayors and other platforms, they provide some of the solutions to monitor progress and to engage city with concrete targets. But on the side of inclusive growth, we believe it's maybe the beginning. We have been working on that at the OECD, and this is one of the objectives of the Champion Mayors initiative. And my last word is to say that actually, as part of the initiative of the Champion Mayor initiative, we are discussing with the C40 to come up with a joint program so that we can exactly doing that, providing answer to the knowledge gaps and identifying which are the good targets that we could monitor, trying to bring together more closely this very two important agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamia. All the four rapporteurs have really provided us with the very specific interventions. I just want to say that the OECD has been documenting for a pretty long time now the increased inequalities of income, but also the increased inequalities of opportunities, which is as important. Because what happens is when you don't have income, you just accumulate disadvantages, and you know it. What we are concluding now, of course, is that these disadvantages have a spatial face, has a place, has a zip code, as President Obama would say, and we need to break it down. I think this is the main message that we get from here. And of course, at the OECD, we will continue doing the analytical work. We will continue documenting all these very interesting experiences that have been put at the table. We will continue working on the nexus, productivity, inclusiveness, and how can we be more productive by investing in the assets of our countries and our regions and our cities. But we would not be so powerful if we did not have the majors. I have to say that it has been fantastic to listen to you because you are the ones that really can make the change. We will be so proud to contribute. We will be so happy to provide what we know. We can, of course, provide these kind of settings to debate, but it's the majors who make the difference. And so before I give the floor to our next champion mayor, who's going to be hosting us in Seoul, I also want to thank many people that have been behind these initiatives. We have a lot of partners. I'm not going to mention them all, but I want to mention Ana Maria Arguilagos, who's here, because you know that you always see the faces of the institutions, but there are so many people behind. And Ana Maria and Lamia, of course, have been conspiring for long to make this a reality, and now we have it here, so thank you very much. But of course, many other people, Marisa, Susana, Anna, Alexander, Sean Righty, who's now heading the inclusive growth, and all the all the OECD staff. I cannot mention all, but you know we're really proud of having you contributed to this very important issue. We are in very, very difficult time, low growth, increased populism, emerging fundamentalism, lack of hope, lots of fear. I think we really need to gather our strengths together, and we really need to believe that we can make a change, and we count with the majors to do so. So now let me give the floor to our next host, Deputy Mayor Dongrong Su. I hope I pronounced it well. The floor is yours.
First of all, I'd like to reiterate thanks to all the OECD staff and City of Paris and Ford Foundation for organizing this wonderful meeting. And personally, I had learned a lot, and I could have multiple takeaways. First of all, there is a broader global commitment about having to make inclusive growth in every geography. Second, I learned that we can learn each other mutually, and more in-depth sharing of experience could be really meaningful. And third, going forward, the expectation is that we should move a little bit forward into implementation. So with that in mind, I'm extremely honored to say that Seoul will host next year's conference in 2017. And we will make effort to ensure broader participation in Asian cities. I don't see much participation relatively in Asia for today, but we will make effort. And second, we will think about how to ensure implementation further with discussion with the OECD. With that, I look forward to seeing everyone, champion mayors, next year in Seoul. Thank you.
Kamsumida, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Mario told me that means thank you, so I hope he didn't tell me anything that is completely wrong. We have an action plan. We are going to deliver on that. We will have a web platform. We will be sharing all this experience. Thank you very much to everybody. It has been a fantastic journey, and we will continue building this agenda together. Thank you very much. I'm going to give the floor to Michael Berkowitz, who will be following with the next panel. Thank you.